I want to welcome everyone here. I'm really grateful that you are. And what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about some things that are happening. And uh, we're in the middle of our May 11th through 16th Spiritual Healing Series 2. And also, as a added bonus for anyone who's participating in the um, uh, spiritual healing, experiential spiritual healing courses online, strictly online, the mini courses, um, whether it be this one or whether it be the one coming up with prayer or whatever. Any of the mini courses or the courses that I'm offering online. Excuse me, I apologize. I take that back. Let's start over again. Anyone who's going through any of the introduction courses or the Series 2 or Series 3 or any of the courses, um, but not the gathering that we're having now and not the healing circle. Uh, I'm offering for those people that do go through the courses a um, a bonus session with me for 15 minutes, and which can turn into a long time. And that will pertain to question and answers. It'll go into um, spiritual healing. It will go into understandings that you would like me to work with, emotional situations, or whatever. And I will be giving guidance and direction in those 15 minutes, and it will turn into a full 15 minutes. So anyone who does take those courses will have that as a bonus. And what we've done with the mini courses that I'm offering, like prayer or intuition or anxiety, worry, and fear, and many, many others, those will turn into mini courses. And later, uh, they'll also be getting into a large course if you're interested in doing that. And it'll cover many topics and many different series. Hi, Anna. Thanks for being here. I really am appreciative for you watching. And let's see. So, uh, the Spiritual Healing Series 2 is in the process of being in the middle of it and almost finishing in a couple days. And that's on understanding, utilizing spiritual healing and the experiential work of it. And next Tuesday, the 19th, we're going to be offering publicly a mini course on prayer, and that's for everyone. And so please take advantage of that. Please do. And May 25th through the 29th, another 5-day course will be a 5-day progressive introduction course again. We've had a lot of participation in our courses, and I'm grateful for that, and I'll give you everything I can. And it'll be an introduction course on the study and experiential application of spiritual healing, which will lead into, if you choose to take it, the course on Series 2. And for anyone who has participated in the online courses of study, not including the gathering and the healing circles, I'll offer a free 15-minute appointment for spiritual healing, questions and answers, guidance and direction, whatever you want, and it'll be a full 15 minutes. And every Wednesday, I'll be doing the gathering, at this time at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Right now it's Mountain Daylight Time in the Boulder area. And in this time, we've decided that, and I feel so good about this, is that we'll be doing question and answers, I'll be doing my dialogue, I'll be doing some spiritual healings, I'll be integrating the spiritual healing time. Hey, Wendy and Christy, thanks for being here. And I'll be integrating the spiritual healing circle into this time. And we will have another spiritual healing circle, one more, but everything will be incorporated into this time. And so please take note of that. Hey, Nahini, good to see you. And Wendy, yay, good to see you all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm grateful and I'm appreciative. Let's see, I do have appointments over Zoom or on FaceTime and on telephone. So please do take advantage of those. And they're up to an hour long, according to what the person wants to get into in their life, whether it be biological, neurological, whether it be skeletal, whether it be emotional, whatever you want to get into, even spiritual understandings of things. Hey, Samantha, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. And so I will be also doing, as I mentioned, spiritual healings with the questions and answers as the time allows in this time every Wednesday. And please understand, firstly, that there's only up to an hour to talk and to get into a lot of dialogue about things in this time. And we're covering events, what's coming up, and I'll be answering people's questions, which is what this time is made for. So I won't be designating this as a class. Those are different and are later offered. And so please tell me, everyone, if you can tell me, what state or city are you from? I'm so curious. I'm in the Boulder area. Please feel free. I'm most interested. I love technology for that part. Heather, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And all my friends here. I love it. Absolutely love it. Please tell me what state you're from. All right. And that'll be coming up in a moment because there is a delay. Aurora. Okay. Kathy's in Aurora. I didn't know you were there. Wonderful. That's wonderful. And let's see. A friend of mine, Heidi, a new friend of mine, I should say, and she asked me a question. And the question is, do you feel unhealed conditions can be karmic? And my answer to that is everything in some sense. Yes, Lynn, please, I'm live on Mark Ehrlich's. Let me do. We're back. It was interrupted, and I apologize for that. And hey, Jane, thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Okay, and Kathy wrote, do you feel unhealed conditions can be karmic? And my answer to that is that everything, in some sense, is karmic. But we are literally presented with those situations this time because it's written into the understanding of the soul to work with these things at this time. And that's just the way it is. And the soul dictates, what situations we're encountering, the people that we're with, and what dynamics are coming up to determine what we're working with. And that's what the soul does. And it presents to us these things at this time or any particular time. In other times, in other places, we work with other things. That's just the way life is in the so-called spirituality and a blending of this life that we're living in. And so, Jean Bell, oh my gosh. All right. Thanks for being here. But the things we experience now at any specific time are presented to us in a way that we can handle it. And the opportunity is just perfect, always, as we choose to do or to avoid it. It's up to us always. We have always things coming into our thinking, our minds, and that represent our immediate situations of life. And we have the opportunity to face them. It's like things are handed to us on a golden platter, what the soul wants to complete, but it's not going to give us anything or hand us anything or throw us anything that we're not already prepared for. We may feel squeamish about it, or we may feel aversive towards it. That's life, and that's the way it is. And so every time that we're feeling awkward inside of ourselves, or we're presented with a situation, that's our opportunity to face it. And facing it is learning to utilize our free will in what we want to perceive or see or hear or know or anything else. We use our free will to determine if we want to clear something up from our karmic of other times and other places. But the neat thing is that we've had these situations for many times and many places, or else we wouldn't be presented with it. And the other aspect of that, or part of that, is we're not going to be thrown something that we're not prepared for. And we can choose, if we want, through our free will. And it's always our choice through our free will. Thanks, Crystal. Thanks for being here. I'm appreciative. And again, everything in that sense is karmic, and we're always being presented with those situations, this time because it's written into our understandings to work with these things now. Other times we work with other things. We don't know what we're going to be presented with, say, at another time in another place, if you're an advocate of reincarnation, or what we've worked with last time. It's a whole different scenario, different environment, different continent, most likely. It's different friends, different situations that are brought up before us. And then there's the question, what can you do when something gets better but not permanently healed? Well, maybe we're given a reprieve to seek medical intervention. That could be a possibility. Or maybe we're given an opportunity to seek more information from the outside of ourselves, or of ourselves, or even inside of ourselves, to find out what more to do. Or even it's an opportunity to finish what we started because it wasn't the end of the story. See, we can delve into things more and more and more and deeper from within ourselves. We have that capability. So the question again, what can you do when something gets better but not permanently healed? Maybe we weren't finished with it as far as we can go. Maybe that's an indicator. And we have the opportunity to wonder more, what more can I do? What more can I do? Or can I go deeper within this situation? Whether it be physiological or whatever, or emotional. We have that opportunity at all times to wonder, what aren't I doing right? Or what do I need to tweak in my approach to this? But oftentimes what we do, we give up instead of pursuing it more so. I hope that makes sense to people. Please give me a shout out if it does. And so that's a biggie. That's a biggie. And we all face these things every day. My friend Roxy, I don't know if she's here. She might be. Good. Excellent. Thanks for the acknowledgement on that one. I really appreciate that. And that it makes sense. My friend Roxy, she wanted to know, why are some things so much harder to heal? A similar question, but different. And I love these questions. They're really good. Why are some things so much harder to heal? Let me see. Well, oftentimes it's what I mentioned in the previous question. And there have been times when this has happened with me too. During those times, I find myself going deeper to that divinity within myself, what I call God, what I call divinity, what I call the nameless one, what I call the creator. I find myself going deeper into that. And I find myself going deeper into the divinity within, and I focus more and more and more. That's what's important to me. When I can think of it, it's not always that I'm able to. And sometimes I get caught up in the rapture of it all too, or in the chaos of it all. And there's times that I finally realize that maybe their situation of dilemma, drama, or trauma was healed when I'm working with another person. And as I work with them, and now it takes their participation in fulfilling it, or even that it's going to be incremental in their lives, you know, small steps, baby steps. I have to take those as well. Everyone does. When we're finding something out, when we're finding something new. Because we don't know the answer, it's given to us. We don't know the answer of healing, it's given to us. It's shared with us. Sooner or later, if it's incremental. And oftentimes, people, when I work with them, they'll experience an immediate shift in their life. Other times, it might be incremental. It might lead into that of what needs to be healed. And so what we call things that are so much more difficult and harder to heal, maybe they are, but it's almost like everything's being set up for it to be healed. That happens quite often. Not everyone I work with is healed immediately. We don't know. We can't know, because what we're doing, we're trusting that divinity to do it for us, which is going to do a greater job than we can ask for, that we can manipulate. When I talk about, in the past in classes and stuff like that, when I talk about, I'll teach you how to manipulate the energies, that's different. That's for our identification that I show you and share with you in what I can. And, but the divinity, the consciousness of it, the mind of God, or whatever you want to call it, creator, the nameless one, it's doing it all. And that's what I'm trusting. The manipulation of the energies, anyone could do that. But what is it doing? We're not controlling it. There's a mind within it that knows greater than what I know. And I'm always trusting that when I'm working with another person. So, and there are times that I finally realize that maybe their situation or dilemma or drama or trauma was healed as I work with them. And now it takes their participation in fulfilling it, or even that it's going to be, as I refer to, the incremental understanding, sooner or later, as I said. As long as I know that I put God first and then my heart into it. First, what I have to do, hey Richard, good to see you. Thanks for being here. I'm honored. First, what I do though is I go to my source, which is everything. It's what we're all composed of. It's what the cosmos is about. Our source. Then I go into my heart. as deeply as I can. It all varies every time that I work with someone, and it's always at a different place for each person because everyone is so unique. But I'm going as deep as I can within myself for the immediate situation. So I'm putting God first and my heart into it, which moves the activity, which is the fire of it, which moves the activity. And I let whatever takes over take over and move forth from me. That's all that's really important for me. And that's what I teach. Whatever you call the godliness, it doesn't care. It just wants us to come to it, to utilize it, because it's there, and that's where we're from. So, Mariko in Japan, she wants to know, let me see if there's any other here. Mariko, she wants to know why bad things happen to good people. I've heard this question all my life, and I always come up with a similar answer. And, well, I think that bad things happen to what we call bad people as well. It's God is not discretionary, but we are. And it all depends how we choose to identify. In the mind of God, there is no such thing, in my understanding, in my experience, in my teachings, there's no such thing as good or bad, right or wrong. God is not a personal God. God is impersonal, and it wants us all to find it within ourselves, to become more realized in it. Whether you call it a man or a woman or some old man 3 blocks up and 4 to the north, it still wants us to come to it. And this is just not for us to focus on, whether good people or bad people. I think that's a judgment. And that's a part of our lives, though, in the way that what we were born into and the way that we were taught. This is not for us to focus on while we're involved in what I refer to as God's world in our lives. Then the truer grace comes upon us. Sure, things happen that are not necessarily in accord with what we think is correct. And maybe those are the things that we need to clean up in our life, of things that are happening. Maybe there's reasons behind them. Maybe it's the type of life we lead. Maybe it's what we're attracting in our life. Just like our thinkings, or the way that we live, or what we don't want to recognize about ourselves. These things are all around us. But I also know that some things do happen without purpose or reason. And not often, but maybe they do. And as these things happen, it's our place. Maybe it's something that we've experienced a long time ago. We no longer have to re-experience in our life. We thought we were out of that dynamic. Maybe because of that, it's telling us that there's still some memory within us, in our psyche, or our understandings of life, or something that we feared would happen again later in life, and here's your prayer. That's the prayer, the answer of it, for things to happen, which makes us also think of good and bad and right and wrong. But again, it's knowing that those good and bad and right and wrong is not our place to have a judgment or to dwell upon, because we're not living in God's world then. But as we're living in God's world, things seem to be easier. And we're striving for that. No one's perfect. I go through these things like anyone else. But in my life, I try with all my heart to catch these things. And when I do, when they're happening, Hey, Stephen, you rock. Thank you. Hashtag you rock. I appreciate that. But when these things are happening, I try to catch myself to be conscious of those times. And then they seem to work out without a lot of dilemma or drama or trauma. That's up to us many a time to determine those times that we can make it easier. And by watching, by observing versus reacting, because that's all we're doing, we're bringing up another memory and reliving it. That's a reaction. So please let me know if this stuff makes sense to y'all, if I'm getting across, or if it's too heavy for you, or too light. Whatever the case, please do, share with me. Yay, yay. Summary size, I love it. I love it. I like those stars that are showing up. How that happens, I don't know. They look like those old jacks that you throw on the ground. I love that. My friend Sue, she has a question. And she wants, how about some hints for spiritual living at this time? And, well, I can't really talk about other people, talk about others, but for me, being impersonal is really the most important. And it's learning not to take anything impersonal. Again, being impersonal is most important. And it's learning not to take anything personal. But that's an art. And I get caught in the trap all the time. But, it's my place as well to catch myself. Hey, Maddie, thanks for being here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you. Your whole family, I love it. The Mackenzies, yay! And there is going to be a replay of this if anyone's missed anything. And there's a lot of stuff that I've said. And so at times I catch myself participating in those things like judgment. Hey, I'm involved in this, and that's a part of the spiritual living, how to change that in our lives. But in spiritual living, there's no going to just the spiritual, and there's no going to just living in the world. It's the true spiritual, in my belief system, is blending of both worlds. And that's what's so important. And that's when we're really spiritual, when we're blending both worlds, recognizing that divinity within, the godliness within, the Moses within, the Christ within, the godliness within, the divinity within, the Father, Mother, God, whatever you want to consider spiritual, and you're into that world, it's blending both worlds because we're living here. That's why we're here, is to recognize that, recognize. Again, at times I catch myself participating in those things, like judgment. And that's my big inhibitor. Also criticizing others or situations. That's my big inhibitor. Chastising people. That's my big inhibitor. I'm guilty of all these things. Or becoming too personal with emotion. And taking things too personal within myself. These things are here for us to recognize, recognize, change the mind within ourselves, to recognize them. And after the recognition, we find that life gets a little bit simpler for that time. And at times, I can maintain it until the next time. Oh my God. Then it comes up again with another situation, another scenario, or other people. And I'm facing myself again. Impersonal is not being cold-hearted. God is an impersonal God. It doesn't take things personal, or saying, okay, you've been a good boy today, so I'm going to, give you a gift. God is not that nature. or you've been bad today, so I'm going to punish you. God is not that nature. Or I'm going to strike you down with lightning. I would have been gone a long time ago. Oh my gosh. Impersonal is not being cold-hearted. Impersonal is the true objectivity and observance and unconditional love. Unconditional. No expectations. None whatsoever. That's what we're here for, to have an experience of that, to have an epiphany of that for moments. Then we find ourselves going on with our lives and going through it again for another situation. Once we claim, oh my God, I just had this great spiritual experience, and that's awesome. But once you recognize that, you're out of that. You're no longer having that spiritual experience. So we start again. But as we begin to recognize things happening within us without talking about that, without explaining to someone else, then it's almost like there's a gluten that sticks it together within us. And we find ourselves capable of holding that epiphany or the experience of it a little bit longer. That's what we're learning to do. That's our evolution. Sure, we can talk about reincarnation and all these other things. They're great conversation pieces if we want to go there. But all these experiences that we're having for now. We're having so that we can meet ourself in other people that we have opposition with, that we have judgment with, that we have critique with, or whatever. They're here for us, not to resist, but to observe. Just like the old man or woman upstairs is doing with us. It's non-judgmental. It just wants to give to us. That's what we want to do eventually, growing into with other people. A small example, and I told the story the other day. I was at a store, and everyone has their masks on, and there was this, I was going down one of the aisles, and someone was blocking it with their basket, and there was this young young lady, having both of her arms over the basket in the middle of the aisle, and her mother was off to the side looking at stuff, and she didn't even notice me. And I just, cheerfully said, "Excuse me." And she looked up after looking on her phone, working on it and stuff like that, and she gave me this dirty look. And she says, "Who am I to interfere with her? Or bugging her or coming into her space?" And I just looked at her, and I saw the dynamic that was happening, and I just looked at her with an intense focus, but with a smile on my face, and her madness just melted, and she smiled back and moved her cart. Then, ironically, I'm in this long line of carts with some of my goods, and they pull up right behind me. And I turned around, looked at her, she just smiled. And it was awesome. It changed her mind, and we can do that. It changed her mind of a perception that wasn't even real, that didn't hold any water in the world or in life. Then I think it was a couple days later that I was at a checkout counter at another store, and the checkout guy was, ringing up my stuff, and he, real grumpy, and another person here, and I don't want to deal with them. And I saw that immediately, and he's real abrupt with me, and so I just looked at the guy, and I saw the destructive quality of that people live with. And as I'm looking at him, he wants to look up, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to acknowledge me. And so I looked at him a little bit more, and I said it felt like the perfect time. I made a comment to him. I said, God, are you guys busy? This is amazing. And he had to acknowledge me. Then I started getting in a conversation with him, and this guy he just started talking and talking and talking. And that's the way it is, and he left my best friend. He started telling me about himself and what he's going to be doing. I didn't even contribute to it. He just had to do that because he saw that his life wasn't behind there dealing with nasty people. But this is what influences people, but it changed his life, at least for the moment. Or maybe minutes or hours, I don't know, or for the rest of the day, but it also reflects on other people that he's involved with, and they get affected too. So we have these abilities within us that are just waiting to be utilized and acknowledged, that we don't have to participate in a destructive quality of life. Life gets simpler, a lot simpler, and it's finding the objective, observant quality within us that we're not participating in anger. Michelle, my friend Michelle, let's see. I want to do something first. Let me see here. I want to check out Patty. All right. Hey, Mark's on. Great. I'm so happy. Thanks for being here, Mark. I'm honored. Patty, I'm curious, and I haven't talked to you in a long, long time, a couple years maybe, or less or more, I don't know. But Patty, is it, and I apologize because there's a delay of several seconds, and so, but I'm curious, Patty, do you have something in your hip, your left hip, that's bugging you? And as we're going on, please let me know. Please do let me know. I'm most curious. And so she'll answer hopefully in a moment or two. And please do answer, Patty. Yes? Okay, good. What I'm going to do, please, and just relax a little bit, and that's all I need you to do. And so I'm going to actually, and this is so real, I'm going to actually put my hands on your hip there, and you tell me, right, type in if you sense something happening, please. I'm feeling a little log jam and a pressure. My perception. You tell me what happens with you. It's going to be different than what I'm expressing. There. And there. And it's actually going into the towards the center and the back, towards the spine, where the muscles extend from the spine to the hip. And also in the hip, where you thought that there might be a little degeneration. How's that? There. Patty, please. Good. Thanks for sharing that. I'm totally honored. Totally honored. And all right, let's see what happens either immediately from then on, if this doesn't help a lot more, or if it completely takes care of the situation, or it incrementally, as I was expressing before, incrementally changes the dynamic of your body. Or it can even, some people tell me that it even finds causes for the first time of some dilemma that they're experiencing or trauma they're experiencing for the first time in a year, 5 years, 50 years, or whatever. Let's see if this doesn't help that. Thank you for answering that, Patty. You rock. All right. And let me see here. My friend Michelle, she asked a question. Why do old injuries, this is a good question, I like this. Why do old injuries act up when the weather changes? My husband got shoulder pain before it rained, although it almost never rains in California. And hi, Karen Morris. Thanks for being here. I'm honored. Thank you so much. And we do have a replay, please. It's pretty awesome, I think. I love it. It's my thing. I love it. And so the question again is, why do old injuries act up when the weather changes? My husband got a shoulder pain before it rained, although it almost never rains in California. Many years ago, I shattered my kneecap carrying groceries. My kneecap went into the front stoop and cement stoop, and it just shattered in about 20, 30 places. And for many years, I too felt weather changes until I realized that some of it wasn't necessary. And then when I realized some of it wasn't necessary, a lot of it went. But I still have some discomfort in my knee, and I won't feel weather changes anymore because that's part of the somewhat, some part of it that left. And same with a lot of the discomfort that left. And I'm satisfied with living with the little bit that's there. It doesn't stop me in life. It doesn't make me unhappy. Nothing. It doesn't affect me. And then one time a couple years ago, I actually broke 2 of my vertebrae in my spine. And according to the surgeons, I was not supposed to. Hey, Shari, thanks for being here. Thank you so much. And when I broke them, it was just a horrible situation for me. And it took me literally 3 hours just to sit up. And it was so painful. And I was afraid I couldn't work myself. I couldn't do this. I nothing. I thought my life was totally shot. But I got the message from within me that you need to walk. And I'm thinking, how can I walk? And it's impossible. But eventually, after 3 hours, I sat up in bed. Then I got somehow to the shower and dressed, which took me another 2 hours. Then I started walking, but it was real slow, and I was afraid that my spine would, the vertebrae would shatter even more and cripple me for life. But I trusted what I had heard, and I stepped out on it, literally and figuratively. I stepped out on it, and I started walking. And as I did, I noticed that there was a tiny, tiny bit relief. So for the next several days, I kept walking, and it started getting better and better and better. And at one time, say a year later, it went from a number 10 being the worst. Within months, I should say, about 5 to 7 months, it went from that all the way down to maybe a number 5 in discomforts. And then I'm thinking to myself, why do I have to settle for this? Then it started getting better in more increments. A year later, I went to a friend of mine who's an MD-DO, and he sent me to some surgeons, spinal surgeons, at Rush Press St. Luke's in Chicago, famous hospital system. These guys had 30 years and 50 years experience in surgery on the spine. And they gave me CAT scans, x-rays, everything. And they said, you can walk, you can turn, you can bend, you have bowel and bladder function, and we see this break in you, and, you know, okay, continue what you're doing. They didn't even want to do surgery in what they saw. And so, but we have the ability to say within ourselves, oh, by the way, it went from 5 all this time to maybe a 1 or a 2, which is nothing. And I'm living, I'm functioning, I can move around, I can jump, I can turn, I can do everything. I'm living with it. And that's fine. Hey, Maxie, thanks for being here, my dear. Thank you so much. And so we have these opportunities to go within ourselves and be whole to what's whole for us, of what we're working with in life. We have these bodies, and they're not infallible. The spiritual body inside, the real body that our physical bodies are formed around, that's what's, you know, perfect in the image of that divinity, of that godliness that we all carry. That's what we're bringing up and about within us, coming forth from within us, to be more alive in our minds and our hearts. That's what we're striving for, to acknowledge it and not going back into that mind of fear. That mind of fear, that's what the world lives in, or a chunk of it. And that's okay, it's not real though. We're here to find the reality from within ourselves. And Michelle also wanted to know, how do you send healing to a group? Or do you send it individually when I work with healing? Personally, I just find that it just happens without me desiring or wanting it or wanting to do anything. I don't even think of it. And oftentimes, the consciousness is what we, it happens. Its consciousness happens when we go into a situation innocently, without expectations or judgments or dialogues within us, or control trips or anything else. And sometimes it's then that the greater ones, or even the angelics, they prepare the way for us. They fulfill, they create a situation where people can be healed. There's people that have come to my healing circles all over the country. And it's not only psychologically that they're experiencing this, but it's a reality as far as certain traumas that have happened with their bodies, or situations in their lives or whatever. But say they're coming in from the car to the healing circle to walk through the door, and they say, oh my God, I don't know what this is about, but something happened to me in the car coming here, coming inside. Or as soon as a bunch of people come in, they feel a wave upon them, which does something to them, which helps them in their bodies. That's awesome. I'm impressed. I like to pat myself on the shoulder again. But it's not me. It's carried with the consciousness that you're going into. That's what's important. And it's not getting in the way of that, or predetermining what's going to happen. Great for a healer if they can predetermine that kind of stuff. God bless them. And so, let me see here. I'm curious, Karen Moore. I don't know you. You don't know me. Maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm curious. Was there an ankle accident with you? Please be candid with me, yay or nay. And it might take about 5 seconds or 7 seconds for you to get this, or for me to see the answer. Was there, Karen, was there an ankle injury that's been on your mind or had happened not too long ago? Please, and feel free to say yay or nay. And it's okay if it's not. Then it's either that or Shari, I don't know who. Please, Karen, if you can answer me on that, I'd really appreciate that. And so we'll go on here in the meantime. Last question, though. Samantha, do the traumas from childhood ever go away, even after a lot of healing? I think, in my experience and whatever, that depends, in most often, upon us and how much we choose to know otherwise, another wisdom, versus the trauma. It doesn't mean that we ignore these things, not at all. Nor does it mean that we try to circumvent them in our thinking or to avoid them in any way. Oftentimes it's a process, or it can happen immediately. And going back to the objectivity and being observant, we're putting the emotion aside. And we're looking at that situation without reaction, reacting. Then the memory, the memory's back is broken. If we can be objectively observant in watching the situation, watching us, seeing what's really transpiring, and the other person, if another person is involved, and seeing what their life is really like, then a part of the judgment goes away and a part of the emotion goes away. It's almost like it's arrested and it's broken. Oftentimes, not for every situation, oftentimes those situations happen. Real briefly, what I'd like to do, that's my answer for that. Real briefly, I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to give a couple minute meditation, and I'd like to incorporate that as the final act of each ending of the gathering that we're having. And so please, if you can, just for a moment, just be really still inside yourself, and just, you can sit up, or you can sit back, or you can lay back, or you can do whatever you want. And if you can just close your eyes and just enjoy yourself for one moment, and go inside yourself as deeply as you can. It doesn't have to be deep, but as deeply as you can, and wonder about the peace in your life, what it might feel like. Wonder about it. Imagine peace in your life. What would it look like? What would it feel like? Just for a moment. When other thoughts come in, go back to, I wonder what peace would look like in my life. Tell those other thoughts just to wait on the side. You'll be back to them in a moment. What would peace look like in my life? Not externally, internally. What would peace look like? How would that feel in me? How would that feel in me? Just for a moment. And you'll get little glimpses. Tiny, tiny little glimpses for the moment. It's almost, they're so fast that we may not be able to recognize as what they are, but they're there, waiting for us to find them. And they're so fast, faster than the blinking and twinkling of an eye. Thank you. And please, if you could put in the comment bar, hashtag you rock. That does something to my Google ratings. So if you can do that, I appreciate it. Someone told me to do that, so I say go for it. And please do. If anyone's interested in an appointment, please let me know. Go to the website, or if you're interested in the classes, please, I'd appreciate that. And every Wednesday, please, this time we're here. And thank you so much, everyone. I'm totally, totally honored that you were here. And enjoy your life. That's what it's for. Bye.